My name is Robert O Neill. Yes, I was born, I'm 94 years old, and I was born in 1929. Do the math, right? So, mostly Peacedale. We moved around a little bit in town. We moved when I first lived here on High Street, Peacedale, moved to Wakefield, back to Peacedale, and then up to Rocky Brook, which is not considered part of Peacedale, though it's another village. But it's part of Peacedale today. But, yeah, so. And then after I married, of course, I moved over in the Oaks here, right behind the library. And after that, we moved to Matunic. That's where we are now, our retirement home. So, well, my father, I started a little bit before that, came down there, but we figure it was 1932. He worked for Saucony Vacuum, which is then known as the Standard Oil Company of New York. But if you do the thing, it's Saucony is Standard Oil Company, New York, S-O-C-O-N-Y. And that had a plant in Peacedale, right opposite Peacedale Grammar School. And he moved from Providence. He was working for them in Providence, and he moved down here to run the plant. And that plant closed in 1940. And when he did, he started his own business, which is known as O Neill Oil Service. And that's when we moved to Rocky Brook. We built a plant up there, and let's stay there. And we moved, the whole family moved up there to a house up in Rocky Brook. So. And we stayed there from 1940 till I moved out and got married in 1953. So. It was a great little neighborhood. We had a lot of friends, a lot of young people at the time in the area, families across the street. Tony Fiala was a neighbor on the right-hand side of us. He lived in the house just below us. And it was a great area. We had the reservoirs behind us for swimming, which is not supposed to do, but we did. And now today that's part of the tri-pond system. It was actually the water system for the town of South Kingstown. And that, hooked into the pump house in Rocky Brook. And the pump house pumped the water for the whole town. Well, that gave up in, I think, probably in the late 40s, probably early 50s. It became the Wakefield water system, and the wells were in Tuckertown, and we had a much better water system than we did. So. Well, we did a lot of fishing and stuff in the area, and we had across the street, our neighbor was Mr. Biddle, Craig Biddle, and he owned the Meadowbrook housing. It was a big estate then at the time. And he had a lot of land behind it, so we would go play baseball over there. And night, every night we have a good baseball game. It was fun. All kids, makeup games, stuff like that. And he would come over and watch us play. Yeah, he was a very good neighbor, Mr. Biddle. He used to walk around the neighborhood, knock on the door and sit and talk here. Yeah. Well, I liked the small town atmosphere. When you knew everybody, everywhere you went, you knew this guy, that guy. Today, that's changing very rapidly. I can go to the post office. I used to go to the post office years ago and know everybody. I take a lot of time there because I have to talk to everybody. Today, nobody knows me. You walk in, walk out. That's it. But, no, I miss that part of the town. I do. Yeah. All this area here, as kids, we used pretty well. The Hazard Estate next door, they were very good to us. We used to go in there and go swimming, and they never really get out or anything like that. They kind of looked at us and said, what are you doing, and so forth, and let us go. It was fun. It was great growing up here, I think. Yep. We lived in both Wakefield and Peacedale, and Rocky Brook also. And I now live in Matunic, which is still in the many villages of South Kingstown, yes. My father was in the heating oil business. He formerly worked for Saucony Vacuum Oil Company, which had a plant here in Peacedale. And he started his own business, O Neill Oil Service. And that's when we moved to our final destination as a single man was Rocky Brook. And that's where our plant is today. Today is Buckley up on Kingstown Road. The plant is still there today, much bigger, of course. But we lived. My father unfortunately died in 1947 at 55 years of age, and my mother, who never knew anything about business, took it over and did a great job. It became a good-sized company, and we finally sold it, which is now Buckley, and which is still there today. And now Buckley is owned by Petro, which is the big fish eating all that. So that was our life here, and that continued on until recently when the business was sold. And after that point, I bought in lily pads properties. I own the lily pads over here behind us, and converted that into condos. And it's become a professional center, lily pads professional center. And we have quite a few tenants in there, which is still in operation today and still going full force. I'm out of it mostly now, though. Well, I guess just being a kid around it was great. We had in the summertime we had Old Mountain Field, which we played softball, baseball. In those days you swam on the reservoir behind Old Mountain Field, which is too bad. But it was not a smart move by whoever did it, but they put a dump on Saugatucket Road, which into the watershed of that reservoir. So swimming ended there. But it still probably could be cleaned up today. It could be a place for kids to swim, I think. The town has never done anything about it, but it was where everybody went in the summer. We had that was everything for the reservoir in Peacedale. To go after a baseball game, we'd go and take a dip. Well, my family was, my father was very much involved with the Veterans of Foreign Wars, so a lot of stuff as kids were at the VFW Hall, their outings and so forth, and as I say, the reservoir, Peacedale was our date. In the summertime, that was it, and the Old Mountain Field. In the wintertime, it was anything, snowy. What do you do? Just to have a good time out in the snow, making snowballs. And we spent a lot. Also, we had the dam, which is we call it the upper dam. It's one of the Powell reservoir systems where we would go fishing up, and it was a very nice place to go fishing up there. Nice trails up to the woods. In back of our plant, we could just walk right up there. And bicycling. I was a great bicycler. Today, my God, we were all bicycle tires in those days, so we'd go everywhere on the bike. It was a great town to go. I mean, everybody was very friendly. It was, you weren't being kicked out of people's places because you were trespassing or something like that. As long as you behaved, and particularly the Hazard Estate there, they were very good to us, I thought. They had the two ice houses in there, which were a great place for us to go playing. I don't know if you ever saw them, but they were quite monstrous buildings, and they used to cut ice in the winter from the pond, and it had like a steam engine that like a track that would bring the ice up into the building, and then they covered it with straw, and in the summertime there'd still be ice in the building, and we played. And unfortunately, we had a couple of guys that would fall through the straw, and not because there was no way. Well, unfortunately, one guy fell and there was a door down. We could open the door to get him out because he fell almost 2 stories because of a straw with the ice had been taken out of there. So it was just the straw. So I stepped on him, down. But that was one of our spots to play at the Hazard Estate up to we call the Pines, which is a big pine forest at the northern end of the property. We had camps in there and stuff like that. I think one of my most favorite memories is when the war ended and the celebration in town went on for 3 days. And people just rode around Columbia Street, Main Street, High Street, in a circle for days, tooting their horns. They closed off Wakefield for a block dance from one end to the other. And my father he was kind of he was let's see, he was a president of the Chamber of Commerce, he was warden for the fire department, he was air raid warden, Coast Guard Reserve. He used to walk the beaches in Narragansett looking for saboteurs. So he was, they've got a big bonfire going on Mount Field. And he said to me, go get one of the trucks and bring down 100 gallons of kerosene. And I pumped 100 gallons of kerosene on the bonfire and touched it off. Oh my God. It was the end of the war was a big thing in town for a lot of people. It was,
I heard that before.
I was too young for it. I was 16 the day the Germans surrendered, May 8th and 45. I turned 16 on May 6th. That was the big time. We had Quonset Naval Air Station. We had the Point Judah had the three big 16-inch guns out there, and we used to bring fuel into them. Our company did. And it was fun to watch one guy cleaning the gun. If you saw a 16-inch gun barrel, it was as long as this library probably, and he had a truck with a brush pulling the bore through this way, and a Jeep behind it on the other side. And he pulled with the Jeep, he pulled back the brush, and that's how they cleaned the barrel. And I said, why are you doing this? He said, having an inspection. And this was after the war. The war was over. But one guy just took care of the whole fort. It's 3 16-inch guns. But that was a different world, so much different than it is today here. It's just, we had a lot of service people in the area. We had Fort Greene in Point Judith, and they all were coming to Peacedale because of the fun establishments there, the bars. And Saturday night was very, very busy night in Peacedale. It was like Dodge City. They had some problems there too. But then Charleston Naval Air Station was here. They would come in the Navy from Quonset. They would pour in. It was very military. I can remember being in high school and hearing all this noise and looking out the window. There'd be a line of tanks going down the Columbia Street. I had a few of them really, but I guess maybe the Hazard here in the Hazard Estate probably, or not so much. There also a Hazard Estate was on North Road, Peacedale, too, and where Lily Pads is today. That was almost all the way up North Road, that part of it. We would go swimming there too.
Yeah, so just if you could answer the question, say my favorite place.
I don't know if I had said a favorite place. I had a lot of favorite places, and I don't know which one I would say is the best. I don't know, probably just going down to Peacedale and seeing my friends and stuff like that was probably my favorite place in those days, yeah. Because we would, when we were little kids, we could play on the rotary, which today was not a rotary then, it was a teardrop shape. And it went all the way down, well, it wasn't round, it was teardrop shape, and it extended way to the, I guess it'd be to the east. The west, excuse me, yeah, still to the west. No, wrong, east. It would extend east a long way, almost to Railroad Avenue. And cars came down High Street, and then they didn't go around the rotary. They stopped, but there was a stop sign there. And they went right up Kingstown Road. They didn't go around the road. The rotary was, it wasn't the pattern that it is today, no. But during the war, that cannon was dragged up the street into the scrap drive. And I can remember the guys doing that. The cannon was put there during World War I, maybe, and they've been there we used to play on it as kids, and we were disappointed to see them haul it up the street and put it in the scrap drive. People drove in with their cars, throw the keys away. It was really a very patriotic town. Well, I hope it doesn't lose its small towns, but I'm afraid it is, but I hope that it doesn't happen. It's like Peacedale is such a beautiful little town. It really is. I don't think people really appreciate how beautiful it is. And when we were kids, it was kind of like Wakefield and Peacedale was almost like the North and the South, the Civil War. We were, even the high school, we competed against Wakefield School in sports. They competed against Peacedale. We were Wakefield bums, they were Peacedale bums. You know, so but I think Peacedale, by far, was a much more historic town, with all the Hazard buildings all over the place, and the mill, and so forth and so on. I think one of other days I remember probably in town is my father being the president of the Chamber of Commerce, when the mill, I guess it was right after the war, because they were very busy doing, they made army uniforms in the mill. I guess they tried to form a union, and J.P. Stevens said, a union, no mill. And my father and a bunch of local guys went up to Springfield, Mass, J.P. Stevens' office, tried to talk them into keeping the mill. They said, no union, no mill. And they had to they closed the mill down, which the whole town lived on the mill. I mean, it was everything to the town. It was the fire department, it was the, I think at one time 1,200 people worked in that mill. 24/7 ran during the war. And we wondered wherever he's going to go for jobs, where they're going to go. But between, in those days, Electric Boat was hiring in Connecticut, Quonset was hiring, and URI was growing after the war. It really grew a lot after the war. And it kind of absorbed most of those people. In fact, most of the houses around here were mill houses owned by the mill. Amos Street was all house. And Patty Hill, the story of Patty Hill was that J.P. Stevens fired all the workers because they tried to form a union. This was back after World War I. And Patty Hill was all Irishman. And today it's all Italian. And there was a big joke about that. My father said, they chased the Irish off Patty Hill. But that was a big thing, the mill closing years ago. The town. That happened right, probably 1946. And I can remember the trucks coming in, big trucks, they're hauling off the machinery from the mill, taking it out. And it hasn't really been ever fully occupied since. It's a little, Eric Thunberg owns it now, and he's got Whaler, the beer is being made in there, Whaler's beer. He's doing very well with that. I really hope they get older. No, kids in town? Back when I was a kid, there was a joke in town that you left high school and went to Stevens Academy. Stevens Academy was the mill. There you go. I'm going to Stevens Academy. Oh, what's Peacedale Mill to go to work, because the mill was hiring kids right out of high school because everybody else in the service, right? So they were going to Stevens Academy. So I hope they don't have to do that. Kids today have a lot more opportunities than they did when we were kids. Even URI after the war, a lot of the young guys came in on the GI Bill with the URI. School got swamped really, and they were living in Quonset huts. They put Quonset huts all over URI, Kingston, even Fort Kearny. All the former prisoner of war camps over here were converted into housing for URI students. Now it's a Bay campus, I think they call it, over in URI. But there were all barracks, all German soldiers were there. And the rumor is they used to walk down the street to Twin Willows with the POWs in the back. That's how well they were treated here. A lot better than they treated our guys over there. And Fort Varnum had Italian prisoners of war working. So, yes, the kids today have a much more opportunity. And the fact that they can get their student loans paid off, that they can, if they're poor, they may get help into CCRI or some of the schools. That's great. That's great for kids. All three of my kids went to college or even beyond that. One's a lawyer, one's a doctor, and one's my son was he ran on the end of O Neill Oil Service. My son, it was sold to Buckley, but we kept the fuel docks in Galilee. We were fueling fishing boats down there, so he kept that for a while, and that was just sold. No, I do one thing. I do remember the tricentennial celebration of the state of Rhode Island in 1936, when my father was in the parade, because he was one of town official then, so he was leading the parade. But that was 1936. As a kid, I'd be, what, 7 years old? So, and also the 250th of South Kingstown, which was, just seems a couple years ago, but that was a guy, Joe, I don't know if you knew Joe Fasella. Did you know Joe? When he led the parade, he danced around the whole, not guy dancing all around the whole parade route. I don't know how he ever did it. He was on front. Of course, poor Joe died shortly after that. Not because of that, but from some other problem.
Thank you.
No, I hope it's been a great town. I'm afraid what's happened in this whole area, though, is we are being deluged by people pouring in here because of the problems in the big cities. They're leaving the bigger cities, and they're all pouring in here. Narragansett is. I read your obituaries every day, just in case I find my name in it. And I used to think I know everybody in Narragansett, but all these people. And if you read your obits, they moved down here from Providence, to Pawtucket. They can't. So Narragansett really has a lot of people move in. South Kingstown too. You don't realize it until you go out into some of the byways where all these used to be nothing, and all big housing projects, all kinds of houses being built. Fiore's building a lot of houses down in Charlestown for senior living, probably, and it's bringing in a lot of people too. Fortunately, Matunic is not that mobbed yet because it doesn't have the facilities that Narragansett has.
Yeah.
But we do have a lot of people coming in there too.